Please say, Chief, how you doing?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Not for long. He wasn't here a long time. Oh, Del Carabo, yeah, I knew very well. He got killed in the car accident. See?
Everybody get one but you, Chief? Everybody get one but you?
No, but he didn't know what he was doing at the time. And Carabo, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
We talked a lot.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I call him. And who was the other one? Kyleman. Kyleman was in here that night. You know what he did? He went to Amico.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Merrillville Town Council meeting for today, Tuesday, May 25th, starting at 6:30. Please stand for an invocation and remain standing for a moment of silence.
Let us pray. We give you thanks, O God, for your wonderful love and for the opportunity that we have to be a part of this community. We ask for your blessings upon this proceeding, that everything might be done in accordance with your will and for the betterment of this community and for the advancement of your kingdom in this place. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Moment of silence, please.
Mr. President.
Mr. White. This is a moment of silence.
Okay.
Councilman Span, would you lead us in the pledge, please, tonight?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mr.
Roll call,
President.
please, Kelly.
Now you can make your.
Councilman
Call
Span,
your name.
Present.
Councilman Hardaway,
Yes.
Councilman Minchuk,
Here.
Councilwoman Yuzlak,
Here.
Councilman Pettit,
Here.
Councilman White,
Here.
Councilman Bella.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Tonight, under petitions, communications, acknowledgements, and remonstrations, we have a proclamation celebrating Juneteenth. The guest presenter tonight, Dr. Danny Lackey.
Mr. President, point of order.
Mr. White.
I appreciate you letting Mr. Lackey read the proclamation. I actually thought that was something for elected officials to do, include myself or, or other elected officials here. Nothing against Mr. Lackey. I just think that I wanted to be part of reading that, but I will defer today. I just don't want to say in the future. Can we kind of think that through next time? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lackey, would you please approach the podium and you have the floor.
A proclamation declaring June 19th, 2021 as Juneteenth Day, 2021. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation, setting in motion the end of slavery in the United States of America. And whereas the Civil War ended with the surrender of General Lee at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9th, 1865, and whereas this news reached the state of Texas when Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston Bay with Union troops. It was on June 19th, 1865, that he announced General Order Number 3. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States of America, all slaves are free. Whereas the celebration of the end of slavery, which became known as Juneteenth, is the oldest known public celebration of the end of slavery in the United States. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and celebrates the successes gained through education and greater opportunity. And whereas on a larger scale, celebration of Juneteenth reminds us, each of us, of the precious promises of freedom, equality, and the opportunity which are at the core of our American dream. And whereas the holiday is considered the longest running African American holiday and has been called America's second Independence Day, Juneteenth is usually celebrated on the third Saturday in June. Historian Mitch Kachin considers that celebrations of the end of slavery have three goals: to celebrate, to educate, and to agitate. Early celebrations consisted of baseball, fishing, and rodeos. African Americans were often prohibited from using public facilities for their celebrations, so they were often held at churches or near water. Celebrations were also characterized by elaborate large meals and people wearing their best clothing. It was common for former slaves and their descendants to make a pilgrimage to Galveston. And whereas the town of Merrillville, with its 35,000 residents, celebrates the fact that we are one of the most diverse towns in the county as well as in the entire state, is honored to recognize this important event in our nation's history, to honor those who are most affected by this historic event, and want to pause to celebrate the wisdom of the United States of America and the leadership at this time in our history for ending slavery. Whereas Juneteenth 2021 will be celebrated on Saturday, June 19, 2021, throughout the town of Merrillville, Indiana. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana, serving within its authority as both the legislative and executive branches of local government, does hereby proclaim June 19, 2021 as Juneteenth Day in the town of Merrillville, and call upon the residents of Merrillville to observe, discuss, celebrate, educate, and agitate others with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and other activities about the importance of this historic day in our nation's history.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Hardaway, second by Mrs. Uselak, to approve this proclamation. And thank you, Dr. Lackey, for reading it. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Mr. President,
Mr. White.
when I had asked during the moment of silence, there was something that I had wanted to say during the moment of silence. Today is the day being recognized nationwide as the anniversary of the death of George Floyd.
Okay.
And that's actually why I wanted to take that moment of silence. But I didn't get a chance to. I didn't think you knew I was going to come that way with it. So I just want to make mention of that because I have been asked at the town of Merrillville, had they planned anything? Probably not, of course, but maybe in the future. Thank you, sir.
Well, if you have some ideas and want to plan something for the future, Councilman, please suggest it to us, okay? We're all up here to manage the town and do what we have to do, so
Thank you,
more
Mr.
than
President.
happy to hear your comments. Moving on tonight to the consent agenda, we have accounts payable register voucher approval for May 25th and the approval of the town council meeting minutes of May 11th.
Motion to approve consent
Second.
agenda.
Motion by Mr. White, second by Mrs. Uselak for approval of the consent agenda as submitted. Any discussions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Moving on tonight to standing and special committee reports, budget and finance, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. We met on Wednesday, the 19th of May, to further discuss the American Rescue Plan, and then we will continue to fine-tune that plan, and as any of the council members or department heads come up with suggestions for how this money can be spent, please let us know so that we can add it to our list. Has the money come in yet, Kelly, or no? Okay, we're still waiting on the first $3.5 million.
Yeah.
We're still waiting on that, but when that money comes in, we'll have our plan in order, and we'll be able to start spending that money as directed by the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Affairs, Mr. Pettit.
Yes, Mr. President, I want to call a Council Affairs Committee meeting for Tuesday, June 2nd at 5:30 before the Planning Commission workshop.
Chairman Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes. Do we have any census numbers? I haven't seen anything come out yet.
No.
Not yet.
Still don't have it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Pettit.
Moving on to Public Works and Utilities, Mr. Minchuk.
Yes, we've been meeting on the Community Crossings Grant. We narrowed our options down to a few different options. We're getting some details on that now. Once we get some final numbers and details, we'll get back to the council.
Good, thank you. Elections, Public Relations, and Town Beautification, Mr. Pettit.
Mr. President, we Actually, Sheila received an email request from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. They're having a fundraiser, and they want to use the town hall parking lot. She would like to also use the town water as well. I make a motion that we allow the National Multiple Sclerosis Society to conduct their fundraiser. Sheila, I don't believe in the email you sent us, though, it says what the date of the event is.
She was waiting for
The concept approval? Okay, I make a motion, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Minchuk for approval of allowing them to use the town hall parking lot area and our town building water. Any other discussion on the motion?
Just to Sheila, just email the council members and Pat and everyone and let them know which day they picked and coordinate with Chief Catino.
One thing, Mr. President, Sean, what about porta potty? Or are they gonna have access to the building?
They did not ask for access to the building, Mr. Hardaway. I don't, Sheila, did you have a telephone conversation with her?
I did. I will have a meeting with her and get all of those details.
Okay,
She's waiting for approval to start her plan.
okay. So this could be later in the summer or into the
Right.
fall?
It could be in June, it could be later June or early July.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, Sean.
Mr. President, I don't know, I was not in attendance at the May 11th meeting, and I don't know if it was announced or not, but the Elections and Public Relations and Town Beautification Committee did meet, and we did discuss the 4th of July parade. Was that issue addressed at the last council meeting?
I don't think so.
All right, it's been the committee met, and the recommendation, and although the vaccines and the COVID numbers and the status of the state are what they are, the committee felt at this time, given the nature of what the 4th of July parade has traditionally been in Merrillville, that for this year, we would cancel the 4th of July parade. So that's a recommendation from the committee. Mr. President, I don't know if you want to take a formal vote or how we want to handle it. I think you sat in on that committee meeting as well. Mr. Minchuk was there as well, I believe. I defer to the committee members. I'm just reporting what came out of committee and go from there. Again, given the circumstances, throwing out candy and the kids and the close proximity to the crowds, I think we just need to still be cautious as we go into the fall with what's going on.
Well, Mr. Pettit, I see Chaz and Karen writing and taking notes, so I think your announcement should suffice. Joe, do we
Okay.
need a motion to do that?
Go ahead, yes.
You want to?
Mr. President?
Mr. White?
Yes, I'm glad to find out. I think you mentioned it last council meeting, that it was a meeting held and those members made a decision to not hold a parade. So I'm trying to figure the numbers that they looked at, the numbers that I've been looking at, which I'll discuss under the environmental affairs, were quite different. Actually, I tried to look at these things a lot closer a couple of months ago because I've been tracking those numbers the entire time. So I'll wait till I get onto the environmental affairs. However, it's unfortunate that we're not having a parade, and I guess Merrillville citizens will have to go to Lake Station because they are having one. Thank you.
So, Mr. Pettit, do you have a motion for the floor?
Yes, I do.
Second.
Motion and a second for cancellation of the 4th of July parade this year, just out of safety concerns. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
1 no. Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moving on to environmental affairs, Mrs. Uselak.
Yes, over the weekend, 2 new COVID deaths were reported in northwest Indiana. 1 in Lake County and 1 in Jasper County. So far, we have 992 deaths in Lake County since the pandemic started. Also today was reported, anybody that got the Moderna vaccination, it is supposed to be 100% guaranteed against the COVID. And that's all I have to report on the COVID. Thank you.
I'd like to add, Mr. President,
Mr. White.
Yes, I've also been tracking the numbers. I'm seeing zeros now. Every other day I'm seeing zeros, and I think that we're moving in the right direction. This is why I looked at these things. I have been watching the trends. Even nationwide, I'm thinking, when you look at 300 million people and 600 people are dying a day, of course, you don't want anybody to die, but that's 0.1%. So I just want to say the same thing for Lake County. You got 475,000 people here. Nobody wants people to die, but at the end of the day, it's less than 1%, which is almost zero. And again, I've been tracking that, and there are 0 people dying. If it changes, then I'll have to change my mind, of course, but right now, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to personnel policy and employee benefits, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple of things. First off is that our Public Works Director, Mr. Kevin Markle, has asked to have some of his duties cut back a little bit. And so having said that and having agreed with that, Steve King has agreed to become the engineering supervisor / Public Works Director and for the town of Merrillville. So my motion is that at this time, we promote Steve King to engineering supervisor / Public Works Director.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Hardaway, second by Mr. Pettit for promotion of Steve King. Questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. White.
what kind of dollars are we looking at in the terms of that promotion?
No money.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Thank you
questions?
for the
or
busy,
comments?
Steve.
I'm sorry, Leonard, what was that?
No, I was saying I thought Steve was pretty busy with the summer.
Oh.
And then he just got an assistant himself. Is that correct, Steve? Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. No more questions.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk Treasurer, let's do a roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yes.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Steve.
Secondly, Mr. President, you know that we've been interviewing a lot of grass cutters over the last few weeks. And what we've decided to do this year is to create a labor pool. And with the labor pool, everyone that's been hired to cut grass, instead of half going to the Dean and Barbara White Community Center and the rest going to Public Works, everyone will report to Public Works every morning at 7 a.m. and they will be dispatched from there. Some will go to Dean and Barbara White Community Center to cut grass, and others will cut grass in town, as well as filling potholes, picking up branches, and whatever else Kevin and Steve have them to do. And this way we'll be able to better control our resources, and they'll be better able to keep an eye on the goings-ons with those laborers.
Great.
So I think that that's an excellent way to utilize our manpower for the summer. We've got some great kids and some great adults, so I think that this is our opportunity to clean the town up, because some of them will be out along the roadways picking up trash throughout the town as well.
That's great.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Public Safety, Mr. Minchuk.
I have nothing at this time.
Economic Development, Mr. Pettit.
Mr. President, I believe there are several resolutions and economic development actions later on the agenda. I will wait till then.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes. We have hired, as Mr. Hardaway had mentioned, a labor pool of grass cutters. They will be cutting the Merrillville parks, which they are up to par, which I have been looking at. Also, 25 warning tickets were given out to different residents where they do not cut their grass in front of their home. So what that amounts to is if it's 8 inches high, they will be getting some type of a warning ticket. So I hope that they pay attention. Also, the garbage cans, after the garbage cans are put out there, Waste Management comes by, they do what they have to, And guess what? For the rest of the week, some of the garbage cans might be sitting there. So I would like to see the apartment buildings especially start picking up their garbage cans and moving them to the back. We have given out, I believe, Vicky has given out at least 20 warning tickets on that now. So we are watching the garbage cans too. And that's my report up to now. Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Mr. White?
Yes, I just want to make sure that I would like to see a little better maintenance of the Cruising Center Park. I'm noticing that it's kind of going down, garbage is not being emptied as frequently, so maybe with the extra help you have, and maybe with Steve on top of some of these things, maybe that'll show some improvements. Of course, it's really close to me, and I do get some complaints from people that do that 50K walk, for a better lack of words. Thank you.
Moving on to abandoned and blighted properties, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Councilwoman Uzelak just alluded to, grass is definitely a problem. For anybody that rides down north end of Broadway, if you get to Family Dollar at 54th and Broadway, that grass is horrible. I had a conversation with their corporate office today, and we issued them a ticket, and we also told them that we expect them to pick up all the paper and keep the grass cut. And if not, the next time we have to have this conversation, they'll get a ticket today until they learn how to cut it. So I encourage everyone else that as you see grass in your neighborhoods, please contact code enforcement, and let's get our town back in the shape that it should be in, where people will be proud to ride through and not shake their heads at the condition of town of Merrillville. That's all I have.
Mr. President.
Mr. White?
Yeah, I also like to add to abandoned blighted properties. I never shake my head when I go through Merrillville. I'm very proud of it. Of course, we're not perfect, but it looks pretty good, specifically at night. Additionally, the property is a little bit north of 57th and Harrison. Those two buildings, the old gas station and that old, I guess it's a cleaners and stuff, it's been sitting there a while. That's what make me shake my head. So I don't know where that is in the terms of.
That's in my ward, and those two buildings are well maintained, and the second building that you're speaking of, that guy's in the process of renovating that building.
Yeah, I've been watching him renovate it for quite some time.
And that's okay. You should look across the street at that other area over there where they got all those trucks and
Absolutely.
dumpsters and stuff.
Absolutely, and I think I brought that to Vicky's attention.
Ward, I take care of Ward 2, Councilman White, and I appreciate you take care of Ward 7.
And that's what I do, but at the same time, we all got the Merrillville in our minds. So if I see something, I'm going to say something. It's not like a fiefdom. So at the same time, since I'm taking care of mine, I would like to talk to Vicky and ask her about those trailers and that concrete, just like you made mention.
That should be your concentration.
Well, that's not going to be my only concentration.
But that should be your concentration.
Not going to be my only concentration. Thank you, Mr.
Vicky
President.
had to go home. She was injured, so she's not here tonight.
Right.
Okay.
And excuse me,
Mr. Span?
you know, I think it's good rapport when we look at each other's wards as elected officials. I think that, you know, elected officials are good governors. I think that they stand as a community symbol, and it is a prideful day when the elected officials get together and agree on the same concern. So I would think in the future, we not judge or throw stones at each other for something that is necessary and it's good for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Span. I appreciate those words.
Moving on tonight to Dean and Barbara White Community Center, co-chairs Mr. Minchuk and Mr. Pettit.
Thanks, Jeff. Several things obviously going on. The very first thing that I want to bring to everyone's attention, and we've discussed this, and there will be an ordinance later on in the agenda. And for Chaz and Karen, pay particular attention to this announcement, please. From this point forward, after this ordinance is passed tonight, Merrillville residents will have free access to the fitness center, all the basketball courts, and I'm going to add tonight, Rick, we had a committee meeting, I'm going to add the rock climbing wall. This is a community center, and I said all along when we were going through this and Rich was president and we had the controversy on how to finance this thing, half of that building is paid for by Merrillville taxpayers to the tune of $12 million. And it is absolutely unfair that we charge the Merrillville residents to get into that center. So from this point forward, I encourage every Merrillville resident that's paying for that center to visit that center. Use the Methodist Hospital Fitness Center for free. Go on the NIPSCO court, go on the Bozak court, go on the Centier court, and use those facilities to their utmost. We gave you a beautiful gift. I hope you all use it. And when we pass that ordinance, Mr. President, it's high time that these residents be able to use that facility for free. Secondly, we've got several items that we discussed at our committee meeting that I want to run through, and Steve and Rick help me out with these. The first motion I'm going to make, Joe, we've got several change orders. Should I just read the change orders and do one vote, or should we vote on each one?
Each one.
Each one? All right, bear with me, folks. We're going to be putting in some concrete pads. The change order amount is $10,420. So moved.
Second.
This will house the 2 storage trailers for the Merrillville Pop Warner equipment and the Merrillville Youth Soccer equipment out at the Weiss Field complex.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Minchuk to install the concrete pads per Mr. Pettit's description.
And they're in need to, the reason we're doing these change orders, fellow councilmen, is there are some timely matters, Steve, correct? That
Yes.
the contractors are working on the concession stand. By the way, yet to be sponsored. If anyone wants to sponsor the concession stand at $75,000 for 5 years, they need to get that concrete work done, correct, Steve?
Yeah, we got concrete going in, starting end of this week, early into next week, and those, pads for the Connex boxes will be part of that process, so we like to get it done.
Okay. The next item,
we have
oh,
a
I'm sorry,
motion on
we
the
didn't
floor.
vote.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Pettit.
The next item relates to the outside facility, and it extends the sod in areas around the backside once they are done with the concession stand, the outdoor patio and that. That sod cost is $13,625. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit and a second by Mr. Hardaway to install the sod around the concession stand at a cost of $13,625. Any discussion on that motion? Any comments, Mr. King?
No.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Pettit.
Next week, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, next week we're going to be starting in on the Horizon Bank walking path. The work in detail, Steve, is they're going to be out there clearing trees from Madison all the way back to what now is the Epic property and the football field. And then a couple weeks after that, Jeff, they're going to be doing soil testing out there to get that path and the bridge over the lateral design, which we hope to still have done this year, correct, Steve?
Yeah, as soon as the trees are cleared, we accepted the quote back today, for $14,000 to get the trees cleared. There's quite a bit of work in there. Kevin and I have been working on that. We'll get the guys in there, hopefully, next week, get the tree clearing done through that area on the backside of Madison Street. And then we'll get DVG back in there to do their soil borings. And as Matt and I were discussing before this meeting, what we'd like to do is work that whole backside of Madison Street. We can get all that put in, and they can bring the bridge in from the other side and set it. So I think it'll be a nice process where we can speed things along and get it done. There's a lot of other work that can be done while we're waiting on the bridge to be delivered. So
Okay. A couple other internal items. The hanging scoreboard sponsorship signs are up. The bricks are still for sale. I think we have another order of bricks coming in, do we not, Mr. President?
Not yet.
Not yet. We have all of our score tables for the volleyball and basketball events are in. The big scoreboard, Jeff, Andrew said will be installed probably Friday, I think he said, didn't he?
Yes.
Friday, the large scoreboard for Weiss Field will be installed. Merrillville Pop Warner is still playing flag football out there. Their last game, I believe, is on Father's Day.
Yep.
They'll take a little bit of a break and come back. We discussed with Ray McDonald, who is president of Merrillville Pop Warner, about the potential for a regional tournament coming to the Pop Warner Field, the Weiss Field, in November. And he's going to be working out the details, and he'll report back to the committee on that. Steve and Rick, did I miss anything else? We're holding off on the netting, Jeff, and the fencing until they play their first game in August and see how much room we need around that field. And then we're going to reevaluate that fencing around the field in the fall.
Yeah,
I miss anything, Steve?
Yeah, no, there's the few items we're waiting on, you know, we don't need to.
We don't have costs on a couple of the items, so I'll call another committee meeting once Steve and Andrew are ready from CORE to have another committee. So I think that covers it, Mr. President. And again, that ordinance will come up, changing the fees for the Merrillville residents later on.
Very good.
Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Mr. White?
Yes, I was just going to ask Chairman Shine about the free passage through the, are we making money on the Dean and Barbara White Center? The reason I'm asking that, because if we're going to give it to free, then how do we make enough money to keep everything going?
Well, they're still renting out the event center, and the tournaments are paying fees. Epic's paid fees. Nike basketball is going to be utilizing the courts for 9 weekends coming up. So, yeah, money is being made.
Okay. Additionally, this past Sunday, I drove past the community center, and I did see it being used. Seen the little kids out there playing in the field, the Weiss Field, I believe it was. I did become concerned about how easily I was able to access the building from the events center side, even though you had people in there that was had some events. But I easily walked around that whole building, and I thought that was a little weak on the end of the security there. So I just want to bring that to the council's attention. Thank you.
Mr. Pettit, I'm sorry, Mr. Span, go ahead.
You know, like when you come to this building, there's cameras in the front and cameras around the back. Do we have that type of system there? At least we can identify if there's something going on?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, we do.
It's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pettit, if you don't mind, one thing that we did not talk about, and I think we did in the committee meeting, was that Merrillville residents who had already paid.
Oh, yes, thank you.
The Methodist Hospital's Fitness Center.
Thank you. That is
to get a
correct.
refund. So you want to?
Yes, we will. After this ordinance is passed, and I would defer to Joe, since this is a fee amendment, can we pass this on second reading? Or does this have to be published?
We're not changing or increasing any fees.
We're not increasing, we're
Making something.
eliminating a fee.
Correct.
What about the people that already paid their fee?
That's what I want to get to, Margie.
Are
I want to see Joe's
They
opinion
will
on.
be reimbursed, or?
They will be reimbursed. We will produce, if the ordinance passes on second reading tonight, effective tomorrow, we have 2 meetings with, the Personnel Committee has 2 meetings down there tomorrow with the employees. We're going to instruct them to produce a list and get it to the clerk treasurer's office, and we will refund those monies. Absolutely.
Okay.
So I don't know, can we do this on second, Joe, or?
Yeah, no advertising's required.
No advertising. All right, then, at that point, Mr. President, I'll ask for a suspension of the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit.
That's it, I think, finally. Anybody else? Sure? Joe, you sure?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Moving on tonight to special projects, that's food and beverage tax, diversity, town birthday. Mr. Hardaway.
Yeah, let's just hop right to the birthday. I'd like to thank everyone that came out Saturday to our first birthday celebration. We had a large crowd, probably over 200 people that passed through the museum. I'd like to thank everyone that volunteered, the town employees as well as others. I'd like to thank PJ's Grill for providing us with 300 box lunches. All of those lunches went away very well. And now the committee's starting to think about the August the 14th event that will be held here at Town Hall. We will meet on June the 10th to start to talk about what we did wrong for this past event and what we can improve on, and then we'll start moving toward August the 14th. I'd like to thank Councilman President Bella for the yard signs that were out everywhere. I think that's how that's how the word got out. And Kevin, right there at 73rd and Broadway, there's one sign still there. A lone sign. It looked lonely out there by itself. So, thank you, if you could do that. But we're very pleased, and President Bella had pictures rolling before this council meeting started, and we appreciate the photography of you that you and Jody did to help make that a huge success. Thank you. Ed, secondly, and finally, the next group of study circles will start on June the 6th at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. And finally, on September the 3rd, which is a Friday, we will have a employee appreciation afternoon where we will invite all employees it'll be a half a day of work and then a half a day of fun in the sun. And we will provide food, and hopefully we'll get some councilmen to flip some burgers and some brats, and probably the chief of police will volunteer. I saw you raise your hand, Luther, to participate in serving the employees, to let them know that we appreciate everything that they've done so far this year, and just to encourage them to keep on doing what they're doing.
What date is that?
Big pardon?
What date is that?
September the 3rd. That's the Friday before Labor Day.
Got it.
So we give you work a half a day, then and spend time with us, and then go home and spend time with your family for the weekend. That's my report, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. White.
Yes, on this line item L, special projects, it says food and beverage tax. Is that a dead situation?
Mr. Hardaway.
It's dead for right now because nobody's in session right now.
Okay.
It's not dead, it's just delayed.
It's delayed, okay.
Right.
Secondly, I would like to speak on the diversity training because I was there for four. What I would like to say is that we had some really great instructors, but it didn't do for me what I was looking for. I think there are some issues that did not get talked about at all. So I'd like to see Dr. Lackey next time, not just so much diversity, but show something about inclusion and equality. That's more important to me. Diversity is not a problem for me. We're diverse. As you look in this room, we're very diverse. But we need more inclusion in what we're trying to do. I think that's it. Thank you.
That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Hardaway. Moving on to Department and Commission reports, Lake County Solid Waste Management District, Councilman White.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Solid Waste Management held a Zoom conference last Thursday via Zoom. It was basically about the Recycling Grants Committee, and everybody in that, most of the 19 cities and towns actually all complied with the requirement, including Merrillville, and we are releasing $1.5 million throughout the 19 communities for the first 6 months. And of course, we'll probably do it again in December. So I also invited them again. I don't know if that day is open for July 15th at the community center, but they wanted to come out and take a look at it and see if that's something that, would be feasible for them. My experiences was that we had a meeting there on the 12th of May. We had Congressman Mervan actually doing a Zoom conference. I'd like to thank Pat and Linda for setting that up for us. Also, Senator Lanny Randolph was there. Representative Vernon Smith was there. Yes, sir. County Councilman Charlie Brown and myself. I think that was 5 layers of government there. I did give an invite to everybody. I'm sorry people couldn't make it, but I think that's a first, that when we bring these politicians, including ourselves, before our constituents, it really lets them know that we care about working together. And I think it was a very successful, turnout was pretty good, and looking forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Leonard, what was the topic?
There was multiple topics. One of the topics with the congressman was the United States steel tariffs,
Okay.
the American Rescue Plan, and infant mortality in Northwest Indiana. He said that Northwest Indiana has one of the highest rates of infant mortality in the nation. So there's something going on here when our children are dying, and they're not dying from COVID. So that was one of the things he talked about. And he was glad that we had time to ask those questions. I think that the Senator Lonnie Randolph asked him appropriate questions about the American Rescue Plan, and he explained it pretty good. So that's it.
How many residents were there from Merrillville? If I could ask.
Well, I know it was 25 people
Okay,
there.
25?
Yes, and also our department heads.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for Joe, but I couldn't find him.
Joe, the attorney?
Joe, the attorney.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Next time.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, everything turned out well, and again, they're going to come out. We got to look at days that are, it may be booked July 15th, I don't know. So I guess I have to get with the, Jan?
Or anybody at the community center, that'd be the first place to start, for sure.
Okay, thank you, nothing else to add.
Thank you, Mr. White. Moving on to Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. NERC met last Thursday, and bike trail maps are available at NERC. They've got boxes of them, 250 per box. And if we are interested in getting those, we could send Kevin or someone to NERC to pick up some boxes of bike trail maps for us.
That'd be great.
That's my report.
Thank you. Stormwater Management Resources, Director Matt Lake. Matt's been busy recently.
Well, real quick, because we got a big agenda here. We submitted an application to Lake County Economic Development for the Community Development Block Grant Funds for Marcella Road drainage. We've also been working on the greenhouse gas inventory, collecting data, entering into an online database system. This whole project is facilitated by NERC, and a lot of communities are participating, which is good to see. Also had a meeting today with IDM, and we're part of the pilot study for revamping the IDM Clean Community program, and we were designated today as bronze status. And Meadowdale project is going along just fine, and we'll start digging out at Bonner Lake here pretty soon to reconstruct the outlet to maximize the amount of storage that the lake can hold. So, and that's all I had for today.
Matt?
Yes.
Yes, I did get something today from Joe. I appreciate you guys looking into that, even though that's not my ward. The water from there goes through my ward. And I see some movement there at the Hickory Ridge, Don, because that's been an issue for years. And that water runs off of the Hickory Ridge property, and the plans I've seen seems like we're going in the right direction. And I just want to say again, thanks for taking care of that very quickly. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Moving on to South Shore Visitors and Convention Authority, Mr. Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report. I will have a report at the next meeting. We have a meeting on the 27th of May. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other department head reports tonight? Mr. King.
So the townwide paving program is ongoing. The concrete work has been finished up in the Barclay Village area, in Councilman White's ward. They started concrete removal this morning over in Councilman Span's ward. We'll be grinding and paving the roads in the Barclay Village area here coming up in the next week or so, getting that area wrapped up. 101st Avenue in Mississippi, our 101st Avenue portion will be open Friday morning in anticipation of the 109th Avenue closure that Crown Point's going to have. We're working hand in hand with them to make sure we're open. Their local detour is going to detour down to us at 101st, that will be open. Public Works was out there today. We're going to do between Georgia Street and Broadway, we're doing we had a couple rough areas on 101st. We're getting patched right now while the road's closed. Also, when the stripers are out there, striping the new portion of the pavement, we're going to have the striping freshened up in that area as well. The contractor will be right there. Road's close, it'll be nice and easy to get that done. So that's going, and that's all I got. To thank the council for your confidence in me and working with Kevin as the Director of Public Works down there. He's got a great team. Kevin and I converse every day about projects, and we work very close together. So thank you guys, and I will miss Miss Sheila.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
again, I'd like to thank you and Sheila and those others that are part of upgrading those communities that have been not upgraded in a very long time. The people in Barclay Village are absolutely elated about the work they see going on. I'm in that community every day. Additionally, on 61st Place, they're also starting to do some curved sidewalks over there prior to it being paved.
Yes.
So I just want to say thanks. You're doing a great job with that, and if you can get me some more, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, the residents over there, especially in the Barclay Village, have been very cooperative. It's a tight area to work around over there. Everybody's been moving their cars out of the way, being kind to the workers, slowing down through there, and it's worked really well. So I think we work really well in that area, so.
Again, thank you.
No complaints. It's a rarity,
Yes,
and it's nice to see.
absolutely. Thank you.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. King. Sheila? Oh, Kevin, sorry.
Just real quick, since Jan ain't here, our last park is gonna be starting tomorrow. We're meeting the guys out there to lay it out so they can start the groundwork.
All right.
And we'll be installing that. So that's pretty much all I got.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Ms. Shine? Thank you. Chief?
I'm sorry, Chief. I'm sorry, President.
Mr. White?
This question is for Sheila. I don't know if I can speak of it, but there is some new activity that's starting to appear in North Merrillville on 61st. I don't know if I can put that out there yet, but I think in the very near future, you may see something that the community would like. I talked to the chief about traffic situations, and the chief actually felt that that was something that was doable. So I didn't want to go too far with that because I know you haven't put that all the way out there. It's just that we're working with the business community to make things look great on 61st Avenue. Still waiting for the filling of all those potholes that almost fell in today. It's still pretty deep over there. Additionally, there's some more ideas out there, but in the near future, I'll let Sheila I'll make those announcements. Thank you, Sheila.
Yes. So what Mr. Councilman White is speaking of, tomorrow night at the BZA, the Clark Service Station on 61st Avenue will be going through a variance to encroach into the front setback. The owner of the service station there on 61st Avenue is proposing to revamp the service station and also put in new pumps, canopy, and also build a 48 by 80 building. The building will consist of a convenience store, and then next to the convenience store will be a liquor store. He'll be in front of the BZA on tomorrow night, so that's what Mr. Councilman White is speaking of. And there is some activity also in the 61st Avenue Plaza some stores, some retail. Mr. Israel is going to fix the parking lot, as we said last council meeting, and there's some activity in there. So we are working to get as much going on the north end as we can.
Thank you, Sheila. And I think that you're going to see some real improvements in that plaza that's been kind of drab for a very long time. Hopefully, in the very near future, they'll have some additional anchor stores when they see the new activity. I'm excited about it, and I think Sheila's working very hard to make that happen for us. Thank you.
Chief Catino.
Not at this time.
Thank you, sir. Moving on tonight to general orders, we have ordinances 21-12. Ordinance designating an area within the town as an economic development target area.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Minchuk for approval of ordinance 21-12. Any discussion on the ordinance?
This was reviewed, Mr. President, by the Economic Development Committee. This is for the Hyundai dealership at 1000 West 81st Avenue. I believe the petitioner is in the audience, Mr. Reardon. This will be a redevelopment. Sean, do you want to step up to the microphone and give the council the details on the investment they're making in town?
Sure, Mr. Pettit.
Mr. President, the client is pursuing this abatement request. They are in the process of demoing 19,000 square feet on the current site with a planned new construction of a state-of-the-art auto facility totaling 25,000 square feet. In addition to retaining the 32 current employees at the project site currently, they will be adding an additional 40 temporary jobs and an additional 25 jobs over the lifespan. The investment into the community is totaling around $8.1 million, and that is why we approached the town for this abatement consideration.
Mr. President, to Mr. Reardon, as we talked about in the committee, Sean, number one, as I always have said since I've been on the council, 10% goal of hiring Merrillville residents. And since you're getting this incentive, I would strongly encourage you to union contractors and/or a project labor agreement with Randy Palmatier of the building trades.
Councilman Pettit, I am one step ahead of you and have already reached out to Mr. Palmatier, and we are negotiating a PLA for that project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk Treasurer, she would read the now therefore. We vote. Any other discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Connie.
Now therefore be it ordained by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, as follows. Section 1, findings. The Town Council hereby finds that the area has become undesirable or impossible for normal development and occupancy because of the lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements or curative occupancy, age, obsolescence, substandard buildings, and other factors that have impaired values or prevent a normal development of property or use of property in that area. The Town Council further finds that the designation of the area as an economic development target area will not cause the town to exceed the 15% limit on the geographic territory in the town that may be so designated. Section 2, designation. The Town Council hereby designates the area as an economic development target area for the purposes of IC 6-1.1-12.1-7 as amended. And Section 3, effective date, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption.
Thank you. Mr. Pitt, I'm not going to miss the China buffet.
No.
Any other discussion on the ordinance? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yes.
Mr. Benchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Reardon. Moving on tonight on first reading, ordinance 21-13. It's authorizing a transfer of monies within the funds of the Parks Department with an additional appropriation.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak,
Second.
second by Mr. Hardaway. Madam Clerk Treasurer, can you go over that?
Want me to cover, you want me to briefly talk about it?
Well, it's got funding here, so I think we should read it.
Okay,
It's not too long.
okay. Ordinance 21-13. Right, yes, okay. An ordinance of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing transfer of monies within the funds of the Park Department and additional appropriation. As to the transfer, whereas it is the established framework for the financing of the Dean and Barbara White Community Center that donations will be deposited in Fund 216, Community Center Gift Fund, for holding such time as they become necessary. And whereas the Town Council recognizes that there is a need for an additional operating expense which have become necessary at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. And whereas it is necessary to fund these additional appropriations with monies from Fund 216. And as to the additional appropriation, whereas it has been determined that this is now necessary to appropriate more money than was originally appropriated in the annual budget in the Parks Non-Reverting Fund. And now therefore it be ordained by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, that the following transfer occur. Fund 216, Community Center Gift Fund, is going to be decreased by $44,030, and Fund 215, Parks Non-Reverting Fund, will be increased by $44,030. Thereafter, it is hereby provided and ordered for the expenses of the taxing unit that the following additional sums of money are appropriated out of the funds named and for the purposes specified, subject to the laws governing the same. The fund name, Parks Non-Reverting. In line item 215-010168, P&R, part-time staff, the amount requested was $13,130. The amount approved by fiscal body is $13,130. Line item 215-010245, P&R, camp supplies, amount requested was $3,000, and the amount approved by the fiscal body was $3,000. And line item 215-010394, P&R Contractual Services, the amount requested was $17,900, and the amount approved by the fiscal body is $17,900. In line item 215-010397, P&R Security, the amount requested was $10,000, and the amount approved by the fiscal body is $10,000. The total for the Parks Non-Reverting Fund will be $44,030.
Thank you. Hello, Trista.
Good evening.
Do you have anything to add to our conversation about this ordinance?
A few things. First of all,
Great.
this will be the new format, the first time that you've seen it, when the council wants additional money from that gift fund to fund services and obligations at the community center. Instead of having a separate resolution for a transfer and then a separate document resolution and agenda item for the additional appropriation, we'll have this form kind of replace the lines where you need it. It will still require the public notice, as we did for tonight's meeting for this, and so the public hearing should be held. But it should at least speed things up for you a little bit as you go through this. Once we get probably another month down the road and the community center gets pretty well settled, I don't think you'll be receiving too many more of these. Jan has done a good job of foreseeing the budget to start with, but of course things have come up and she's been able to hire more people to assist with the running of the center, which is great. And so that's really what most of this additional need is for. The summer program for the children, the youth age is getting up and running, which relates to this ordinance as well.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Can we suspend the rules, Trista, on this?
I suggest that you do after the public hearing is held.
But you have to have a public hearing.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please, on this first reading ordinance 21-13.
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Is there a motion to suspend?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. White, second by Mr. Span, to suspend the rules tonight to read ordinance 21-13 on second and final reading. Any discussion on the motion to suspend? Hearing none, all roll call, sorry.
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor. We will suspend the rules tonight to read this ordinance on the second and final reading. Ordinance 21-13. Madam Clerk Treasurer, just the synopsis this time.
Okay.
This is to transfer funds from the gift fund for the community center into the Parks Non-Reverting Fund, and the line items that I read previously are going to be what is going to be funded.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Minchuk for approval of this ordinance on second and final reading. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none, this is a second reading ordinance. I'll ask for any public comment. Is there any public comment tonight on ordinance 21-13? Transfer of funds. Is there any public comment? Hearing no, back to the council. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk Treasurer.
Mr. Span?
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries.
Mr. President,
Mr. Pettit,
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and go back and read ordinance 21-12 on second reading.
Second.
Joe, can we do that, or should we get through all the ordinances first? Might be out of order, right? Mr. Pettit, I'm going to call that out of order until we read the rest of the ordinances, to go backwards on the agenda.
Under second that's what I thought too. If we could do all the first reading ordinances on second reading and suspend the rules on all these because they're somewhat timely and need to be implemented. So however council advises us to proceed.
Yeah, Joe, what do you think?
Go through all the first reading. Well.
Procedurally, go through all the first reading and then do them on second reading so we can, especially the residents
Yeah, let's do
with
that.
the fee structure,
Okay.
if they don't need to be advertised.
So, Mr. Pettit, I'll ask you to withdraw your motion.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Withdraw.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinance 21-14 on first reading. Madam Clerk Treasurer.
Ordinance 21-14 is an ordinance for the town of Merrillville, amending the ordinances of 21-03 and 2016, and that is to pay for employees of the town of Merrillville, Indiana for the calendar year of 2021. There have been some changes and new hires and a raise, without reading all of this many pages.
Well, they're not all changed. It's just,
Just a couple.
just a one.
Are you done, Cal?
Yes.
Motion to. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Hardaway with a second by Mr. Span for approval of ordinance 21-14 on first reading tonight. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman White.
can I have additional clarification as it says, and pay for employees of the town of Merrillville of Indiana? I don't quite understand which employees we're talking about. Are we talking about all employees?
No.
This is our normal ordinance that, we're amending the ordinance, the pay ordinance. You know, we have to pass an ordinance to pay all of our employees every year. So there's an amendment to the ordinance. There's only a couple of changes, but you have to amend the entire ordinance. I probably should have let Joe speak to it, though.
You have anything to add,
You
Joe?
adopted a salary ordinance. Salary ordinance, anytime it's amended, it has to be amended by the town council. So this is in turn a couple changes to the salary ordinance itself. So these are the changes that are being implemented and has to be approved by the town council.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Mr. Hardaway, anything else to add?
No. Do I need?
Okay.
No.
Krista?
Simply to point out to council's attention, the two
Yeah.
changes here for your consideration are under town administration, the second section. The third line is new. That is the town hall building maintenance person that you've approved last meeting, I think. The change from the contract service then to the full-time employee. The budget will be reflected a little while later with another resolution to cover the Social Security costs that the town then pays for a full-time employee, as well as the perf costs. The second amendment is on page 2, under Planning and Building, to the director's position. And the reason, Councilman White, that the date at the top of page 1 says May 23rd is that is the most immediate day that the new pay period begins. And so as of the time that the new pay period starts, these salaries will be in effect. The building director's salary, if voted on tonight, will be amended. And that is the easiest way for the payroll clerk to be able to, work the finances instead of doing it midway through a pay period. So this clarifies for her exactly when that switch should take effect, and everything should run nice and smoothly.
Okay, yeah, I was just a little confused as to when we were doing the budget last year. I thought it was a locked-in budget, so I didn't know where those extra dollars came in at or from what fund it was transferred out of. So that's where my concern, not much as a concern, but my a clearer understanding of how that worked.
Sure, and the resolution that you'll have later this evening, number 34, I believe it is, will help clarify that for you. There is money in both the planning budget that we believe, based on what has been used so far this year, will still be available, left over at the end of the year, meaning it can be used now for this payroll purpose, as well as then in the town administration line, when we're taking money out of that contractual service spot instead to pay for the employee. Again, that money is just being shifted for a different use.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span.
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway.
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk.
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Mr. Bella.
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Moving on tonight to ordinance 21-15. It's an ordinance changing the park user fees for the town of Merrillville.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Hardaway for approval on first reading. Wow, that salary ordinance is huge, isn't it?
It's huge, yeah.
So on the back page of this ordinance 21-15, you'll see the yellow highlights. It reflects Mr. Pettit's earlier discussion and motion to change the fitness center fees to free with ID for Merrillville residents. It goes all the way down from a family to an individual, adults, seniors, youth, etc. Questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Span.
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway.
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Mr. Bella.
Yes.
All 7 in favor.
All 7 in favor, that motion carries. We'll go back up to ordinance 21-12 for second reading. Mr. Pettit, did you have a motion?
Motion to suspend, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules tonight to read ordinance 21-12 on second and final reading. Mr. Pettit and Mr. Hardaway. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call on motion to suspend.
Mr. Span.
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway.
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk.
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
And Mr. Bella.
Yes.
7 in favor, suspending the rules.
We will suspend the rules tonight to read ordinance 21-12 on second and final reading. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pettit, Mr. Hardaway, thank you. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none. Is there any public comment tonight on a second reading of ordinance 21-12, designating an area within the town of Merrillville as an economic development target area? Seeing no public comment, Madam Clerk Treasurer.
Mr. Span.
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway.
Yes.
Mr. Minchuk.
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Mr. Bella.
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries.
Motion to suspend ordinance 21-14, Mr. President, for second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Hardaway to suspend the rules tonight to read ordinance 21-14 on second reading. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yeah, I know we just suspended the rules and went back to 2112, and now we're going back to 2114 as well?
That's correct.
Was it 13 or
We did 13 already.
We did 13 already, okay.
Okay, I'm a little not clear on why initially it was ordinance 2112, now it's also 2114.
Yeah, we're also going to do ordinance
We're
21.
going to do all the first reading ordinances on second reading.
Got it, okay, thank you.
We're just clicking through the list.
Okay.
Madam Clerk Treasurer, second reading ordinance 2114.
On the motion to suspend? Or do-
I think we...
Right?
Yes, we
Is
need
the
to
motion
vote.
to suspend?
Yeah, motion to suspend.
Okay. Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yep.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Ms. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor of suspending the rules and reading on second reading.
Motion to approve on second reading, Mr. President.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Hardaway to approve ordinance 21-14 on second and final reading tonight. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none. Open to the public. Is there any public comment tonight on ordinance 21-14? Any public comment? Let the record show there's no public comment. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yep.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries.
Mr. President, motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 21-15 for second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Hardaway to suspend the rules tonight to read 21-15 on second reading. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yes.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion to approve ordinance 21-15 on second reading, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Hardaway to read 21-15 on second and final reading this evening. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, open to the public. Is there any public comment tonight on ordinance 21-15? Seeing none, Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Span, wait, I think we have public comment. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
My name is Eric January, and I live at 3031 West 58th Avenue. Just looking at this, I love the community center. I love what's been done there. My kids go to the Y. They go over to the community center. I'm a CPA. I moved here to the area because of the low taxes. I love the quality of life, but I am concerned if we just make it completely free to everyone, that the cost of operating that place is just going to be exorbitant, and it can end up adding to the tax base. So I think it's reasonable that if somebody's going to use a facility, that they can pay $5 a month or something like that, just going towards the maintenance of the facility. Otherwise, the town is going to have to bear that cost. So I think that maybe we should consider some sort of user fee, even as nominal, because otherwise we'll have people coming from all over the place trying to use a facility. And I don't know what kind of measures you all are going to have in place just to make sure that the people that are saying that they're residents of the town of Merrillville are actually residents of Merrillville and not some other place and running the facility to the ground.
They need to show a driver's license, sir, when they sign up for the membership, number one. Number two, the bond issues that funded this building for $24 million, $12 million is coming from the Merrillville Road TIF district, and $12 million is a general obligation bond. So all the property holders, including yourself, are seeing that on your tax bill. So I don't feel it's proper to double tax people to use the center when they're in fact paying for it on their tax bills. Third, and most importantly, and very graciously we all are, we received a $10 million gift from the Dean and Barbara White Family Foundation for the operation of that center. They've never given a gift for operation like that in Lake County, and which is why it's named for that. So we do have the money to operate the center for the very long foreseeable future.
Okay, all right, so long as that's the case, I just
Yeah.
don't want it to be an end up.
Well, when you said you just moved in, I wanted to make sure you were aware of
I've
some
been
of
here
the things
almost
we've gone
7
through. We are trying to help you guys out.
Yeah, okay. I've been here for almost 7 years, and I like the quality of life, and the facility is beautiful. And my major concern at that point was just really, if it's free, people often don't take it, they don't treat it the same way.
Right.
If they've got to pay for something.
Right.
And although our tax dollars are going towards that, if we're using it, I don't think it's unreasonable to still pay some sort of fee just for the maintenance of the facility.
Right, and it's
We want to keep it apart.
generating revenue, sir. I mean, there are club sports, Nike basketball, volleyball, that use the facility that pay an entry fee. When you rent the Mike Anderson Event Center, there's a fee for that. There are fees for the different rooms, the community rooms that we have in there. You still have to pay for the rock climbing wall. So the center is generating, and any non-Merrillville resident will fall into that fee structure under that ordinance. So if someone from Hobart wants to come and work out, they're going to have to pay that fee. So it will generate non-resident fees as well.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make my comment.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All the programming, too.
Mr. Pettit, we should point out, too, that we received over $750,000 in sponsorship.
And sponsors, capital
Which
sponsors,
goes up
yep.
to capital fund, which is going to pay for resurfacing the courts, other maintenance, things like that, so should be good. Any other public comment? Thank you for your comments, sir. Seeing no other public comment, Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yes.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Moving on tonight to a real second reading ordinance. Ordinance 21-11. Madam Clerk Treasurer.
This is the ordinance for the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville authorizing the issuance of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana Economic Development Revenue Bonds and approving and authorizing other actions in respect thereto. Now, this is a very long one as well. Yeah, if you want to have Pat speak
Regards
to it a
to
little bit.
Liberty Estates.
Motion to approve, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit with a second by Mr. Span for approval of second reading ordinance 21-11. Is Randy here tonight? No. Mr. Pettit? Anything to add on this?
I was just going to say, I heard from the consultant, he regrets that he was not able to be here tonight.
Okay,
Appreciates the council's consideration.
of course. Thank you, Pat. Any other discussion on this second reading ordinance?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman White?
Yeah, when we're saying economic development revenue bonds, is there an amount that they're looking for, or?
On the third paragraph down, you'll see there's not to exceed $10 million. This is a developer-backed bond with no risk to the town of Merrillville.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other comments? Is there any public comment tonight on ordinance 21-11? Seeing none, Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yep.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on tonight to resolutions, Resolution 21-27, the Town of Merrillville to submit a project proposal for Community Development Block Grant Funds. This authorizes the Town Council President to sign on behalf of the council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Hardaway for approval of Resolution 21-27. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none.
Mr.
Madam-
President.
Mr. White.
The Community Development Block Grant Funds for fiscal year, is there an amount, or am I missing this out?
Again, on the third paragraph, the amount is $144,430.
Okay, and those dollars are going to be spent how?
undetermined yet.
Okay.
We're just securing the funding.
We're getting the funding secured, and then we'll talk about that.
All right, thank you.
This is the first step, Leonard, for that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yep.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Moving on to Resolution 21-28 tonight. It's a preliminary resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville approving real estate tax abatement.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second Mrs. Uselak for approval of Resolution 21-28. Mr. Reardon, would you like to walk us through this a little bit?
Certainly. As the council heard earlier, the Webb family is proposing to redevelop their current dealership located on 30. That project includes land acquisition, site clearing, demolition, new construction. And we have asked the town for assistance through the abatement program. The project is a multi-million-dollar project. It will retain, I believe, 32 jobs. It will create estimated up to 40 construction jobs, and will create an additional 15 jobs once the facility is open.
Thank you, Pat. Any discussion by the council?
This is Web Ford?
Webb Hyundai,
Web Hyundai. Oh, Hyundai, okay.
North
All
Park.
right, konnichiwa. Konnichiwa.
Shishi.
Councilman Minchuk, any discussion from you? This is your district, I believe.
No, sir.
No?
Yes, the same building spec. No,
Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
we have to.
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yes.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Moving on tonight to Resolution 21-29. It's a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville approving deductions from assessed value of new personal property improvements in an already declared economic revitalization area.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit with a second by Mr. Hardaway. Mr. Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pardon me. Quality Pasta is proposing to lease space at the Crow Holdings building under construction on Georgia Street. The amount of space that they will lease is approximately 90,000 square feet. They will be bringing in, installing, manufacturing, machinery equipment, material handling equipment, continuing with the construction jobs that have been created when Midwest Truck and Auto came to town, contributing to that continuation of the estimated 200 jobs. Quality Pasta will create 50 new permanent jobs with an annual payroll of $1.5 to $2 million. This is a personal property tax request as a tenant.
Mr. President, to Mr. Reardon and to Quality Pasta, who I know is in the audience, Peter, since this is personal property tax,
Yes.
is there any interior development that needs to be done by a PLA?
Let's have him come up, please. To the
Yeah,
podium
Peter, why
so
don't
we
you
can
come up to the microphone?
Get it on the microphone. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll never hear him.
Crow's doing it.
It's all under that initial PLA.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi. Go ahead, Sean.
Peter, if you want to state your name and address for the record, just so we know our new neighbor.
Sure. My name is Peter Kroner. I'm the managing director, managing partner of Quality Pasta Company out of Oak Brook, Illinois.
Okay, and one of the, as we said to the other petitioner with the tax incentives, we have a project labor agreement. My understanding in talking with Mr. Reardon is you're falling under the Crow Holdings project labor agreement for any interior remodel or finishing out of your space. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then obviously the jobs that Pat read into the record, as I said before and stand by, 10% goal, not a demand, but a 10% goal of hiring Merrillville residents. And I would be remiss, and I would share this with Mr. Reardon in the back row. As a board of directors for the Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce, I would strongly encourage both of you to become members. I would greatly appreciate that once you move into town. I am your councilman out there in Ward 6 in Ameriplex, so welcome to town. I thank you for the job creation.
Thank you very much, and we do plan to hire as many employees locally as we can. I know Mr. Reardon has shared with us that there'll be a job fair at the end of July, end of August.
Correct. And we'll send you that information. Thank you for that.
Yes, and we plan on being in operation October 1 is when we start producing our products.
Very good. Okay. Karen, anything to add?
I'd just like to thank the council for their efforts, as well as the town administration for considering this tax abatement. It's yet another step in the positive direction that Merrillville has already established about being a great place for business. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
You got a new place to buy pasta now, Mr. President.
I know that. And I do eat pasta.
So when's the spaghetti dinner?
I'll let you know.
Are there any other questions from the council for Mr. Croner?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer?
Mr. Span?
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor. Motion carries. Welcome to Merrillville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Peter.
Moving on tonight to 21-29, right?
30.
No,
30.
30. I'm sorry, I'm getting,
Pasta was 21.
I have pasta on my mind. Okay, 21-30 tonight. Again, we are considering approving deductions from assessed value of new personal property improvements in an already declared economic revitalization area.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Uselak. Second by who?
Mr. Pettit?
Mr. Pettit. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this resolution? Will the petitioners come up and approach the podium?
Which one is, which?
We're on
Turbonetics.
Turbonetics. Jay?
Sorry, Karen. We should have said that.
That's okay.
Stretch your knee.
And for the record, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Karen Lauerman, President and CEO of the Lake County Economic Alliance. Jay, Joe?
Yes, good evening, council. Well, my name is Jay Hoon Ha. I am the controller of Precision Turbo, as well as Turbonetics Holdings Incorporated.
My name is Joe Kervikis. I'm the general manager, Turbonetics Holding, Precision Turbo.
Excellent.
Okay, Mr. President, obviously, gentlemen, the same criteria would apply. I would strongly encourage a 10% hiring of Merrillville residents if possible. And also, you will also fall under the same project labor agreement that Jack has out at Crow Holdings for the building with Ms. West Tire. And again, if Karen and I, because Karen's in the same building as the Chamber of Commerce, I would strongly encourage you joining the Crossroads Chamber of Commerce. I almost said Merrillville, Karen. That was a slip. And again, I welcome you to town. Thank you for creating these jobs for Merrillville residents.
Thank you, we appreciate that. You know, it's our desire to become a member of the chamber, and we want to thank the town officials and the town council for consideration on this, so thank you very much.
Let's make sure you're lasting members of the chamber, so continue your relationship, so.
By the way, what actually do you manufacture?
So we manufacture high-performance turbochargers. So It's auto part very similar to what the guys at Midwest do as well.
So Luther, Chief Catino can put those in all the squads?
That would be our genuine desire for that.
All right.
I'm writing it down.
There you go.
A last comment.
We'll need 61 of those.
We're gonna need 61 of those.
Right. Their investment exceeds $3.5 million, and with their leasing the Midwest building, that building is full.
Yep. That's great. Thank you, Pat. Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Span?
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yep.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7-0, motion carries. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Just as long as they don't say back in the millions.
Moving tonight to Resolution 21-31. It's another approving of deductions from assessed value of real property improvements in an already declared economic revitalization area.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uselak,
Mm-hmm.
second by Mr. Pettit. Open for discussion. The petitioner's here.
Mr. Reardon, which client?
This is Crow Holdings, his property owner.
I'm being cautious on the name calling tonight, so that's why I'm not.
Hello, my
Yes,
name is Jack Raven. I represent Crow Holdings from Chicago.
For the council's benefit, we just heard from or were introduced to the two tenants going into this building. And to facilitate their move-in, Crow Holdings will be investing an additional $5 million to build out the respective space. And, as I mentioned earlier, a continuation of the construction jobs. We've heard that this is an extension of the project labor agreement with the trades.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from the council?
Oh, Karen reminded me, we are already a member of the chamber. So,
You don't have to join twice.
Deanne will appreciate that, Karen.
yeah,
Probably like to.
And it is just a suggestion, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yep.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7-0, motion carries. Welcome to town. Wow, a lot of new jobs coming to town. Awesome. Moving on tonight to Resolution 21-32.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mr. Hardaway for approval of Resolution 21-32. This is with Pure Development, Inc.
Matt, Brian? These are representatives from Pure Development and Project Z, and I'll let them introduce themselves. And they're here to tell you about their project and explain a little bit more about their operation. Thank you.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Brian Palmer, a principal with Pure Development, based out of Indianapolis. We'll be the developer on the project.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Zaya. I'm a Vice President of Development for Domino's Pizza, and we are going to be the client.
Very good.
Matt, if you'd like to discuss the number of jobs and the operation and the purpose of the facility, and then maybe we could have Brian just briefly address the size of the facility and the amount of construction jobs and things of that nature for the council and for those in attendance.
That's my pleasure. So Domino's will be constructing a supply chain center in Merrillville. This will be one of 27 supply chain centers that we operate throughout the United States and Canada. The main purpose of this operation is to produce fresh dough balls. Included in that is also a freezer, refrigerator, and dry warehouse space. As mentioned before, it is going to be a sizable building. It's going to be our second largest development, over 100,000 square feet. Again, production rooms, tray washers, so end-to-end production for stores that will service Indiana, parts of Michigan, parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, and parts of Ohio as well.
That's great. Thank you.
The facility itself, Phase 1 will be roughly 112,000 square feet, expandable to roughly 150,000 feet. It's located on a 15-acre site just south of Dawn Foods, I-65.
Thank you. Karen?
I'd just like to say again, thank you to the council and to the administration for their assistance in this project. These are three major projects in addition to the development that Crow and Pure are putting in. I think, Mr. Reardon, if our total is correct, this evening we're welcoming more than 300 new jobs to Merrillville, roughly an estimate, 140 jobs with Domino's, and then the other two companies in addition to the construction jobs. So these are very important steps, and we do appreciate the council's consideration on first approval. Are there any other questions for the clients?
These developments will all be under a PLA, correct?
Yes, they will be. Pure is following through with that, and Crow already has one established.
And the only other comment I have is for Councilman Pettit. You have your pasta, now you have your pizza.
That's Mr. Bella's neck of the woods, I believe,
Yeah.
even though it's in Ward 6. As I told the gentleman when I met him, I will be your neighbor across the street when my company moves in. So if you guys do pizzas that'd be great. I got 34 bill posters from Lamar Advertising that would probably frequent your place.
That's incredible.
Okay.
As Joe mentioned, the PLA, obviously, or union contractors with this incentive. And again, the job creation goal of 10%. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask about joining the Chamber of Commerce.
Of course, it'll be a long-standing commitment, and we have a store right next door, so that store will service that area.
And one of the things for the rest of the council that I mentioned to all of these gentlemen out of the Ameriplex, and Steve King and I have already discussed this, that once all the construction is done, I know this will be music to Mr. Svetonov's ears, once all the construction is done in probably September of 2022, we will be resurfacing that park out of the Broadway TIF. If anybody's been down 98th Avenue by Amazon, it is a war zone, which is a good thing. But I made the commitment to all of you guys in the audience that we will resurface that park. Right, Steve? All right. So you'll get new roads once your construction's all done.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
So guys, thank you for considering Merrillville too. We know you're a global brand. It really could locate anywhere that you want. And to have you guys come to Merrillville, we really appreciate you looking at Merrillville favorably, and we're here to help you as much as we can.
Of course, we appreciate it, Mr. President.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to add, to elaborate on Karen's numbers. Karen, you are correct, over 300 new jobs, over 300 temporary jobs through the construction, as I mentioned. Two existing companies and 4 new, approximate total investment, over $70 million.
That's great. Thank you, Pat. Any other comments from the council? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span?
Aye.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yep.
Mr. Minchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Welcome to Merrillville.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you for your support, Councilman and Councilwoman and Pat.
Thank you, Karen. We know these things don't happen overnight, so thanks for all the hard work on it. Moving on to Resolution 21-34. We're transferring monies within the 2021 budget, Department 4, Planning and Building Department, 7, Town Administration. This is in reference to what Trista mentioned earlier to cover some raises that were going on.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uselak with a second by Mr. Pettit for approval. Any discussion from the council? Anything else to add, Trista?
Only if you have questions.
I'm not hearing questions, so we're going to vote. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Span.
Yes.
Mr. Hardaway. Mr. Hardaway, did you say yes?
You said yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk.
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
And Mr. Bella.
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Resolution 2134 is approved. Moving on tonight, is there any BZA actions?
No BZA actions this evening.
Thank you, Sheila. Is there any old business before us?
Mr. President, under my Dean and Barbara White Community Center report, I was remiss. Pat had received an email from Tri Kappa, and I have a copy of the letter if you folks will indulge me. Pat got this request. Dear Mr. Reardon and Town Council members, the Beta Row chapter of Tri Kappa has served the area of Merrillville, Gary, and Winfield for over 100 years. In fact, we celebrated our centennial anniversary in February of 2020. I have lived here in Merrillville for over 30 years and have been a member of this Tri Kappa chapter for most of those years. Our fund supports the community in 3 ways. A third going to each of charity, culture, and education, scholarships given to students attending colleges from our area. For more information, our statewide web address is www.trikappa.org. Our chapter website is betathortrikappa.org. We hold monthly meetings on the second Monday of each month with about 40 members in attendance. We are in need of a new meeting place beginning this September. We toured the Dean and Barbara White Community Center and are very impressed with the facility as a whole and with Matt Gilson, who gave us the tour. He quoted a price of $25 per hour for the SNJ McDonald's room since I am a resident of Merrillville. Our meetings normally run just under 2 hours. The rate he quoted is very fair, but being a not-for-profit organization that serves this area, we would like to ask if you would consider discounting the meeting rate by 50% for us. Our largest fundraiser through the years has been our annual Evening of Elegance style show held at the Avalon. That has been put on hold because of the pandemic, but in the future we'll certainly consider holding our event there at the community center. Specifically, our business meetings are in these 7 months and would like to get them on your schedule. On the off months, we meet at members' houses, September, October, November, January, February, March, and April. We appreciate your consideration in this matter, and we are always looking forward to ways to serve our communities and welcome any support and involvement from the town of Merrillville. Most sincerely, Joy Quinn. Mr. President, I make a motion that we honor the Tri Kappa request.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Pettit, second Mr. Hardaway, to allow Tri Kappa to use the room at various dates mentioned for a 50% discount.
Mr. President,
Councilman White.
is that a permanent?
It's for the dates that were listed. I believe there was 8 different months.
7.
7? Okay.
7.
For 7 months.
But I think she does want it for continuous years, yes.
Well, we'll take those up after these 7 months.
Sure.
are-
Yeah, if you want to contact her, Pat, and let her know.
Thank you. I'm sure
It's
she'll,
only good for the 2021.
Yes, 2021 calendar year.
Oh, just for this year.
21, 22.
Yes,
We're
right.
in 21.
Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Pettit?
That's all.
Any new business tonight?
Yeah, Mr. President. 2 things. I forgot to mention earlier under vacant and abandoned buildings that next council meeting, we do have Pro Temp coming in at 5 p.m. to give us their presentation so we can make a decision as to whether or not we want to participate with them. And secondly, there is a 14.1 acre plot of land located at 3400 West 76th Lane. That's in Councilwoman Uzelak's ward. We have a potential buyer for this land. And so I'd like to make a motion that we let Mr. Reardon get 2 appraisals so that we can see what the land is worth, and then average those 2 appraisals out, and that should be the price of the land.
Second.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What did they plan on building there, or what's there that they want it for?
They will be calling you, Marge. They came before the plan commission before.
Right.
it's the lady that wanted the land at, on Grant Street in Jeff's ward.
Okay,
And then, and that land, she just couldn't afford that land.
that's over there by Tech Federal Credit
Yeah.
Union, Jeff?
Right, she wanted
Where?
to do the women's veterans home.
Oh, okay, so
No,
they
not the-
want
not
to,
the women's veterans. No, it's the other one,
it's the one next to HEPA.
kind of like assisted living.
Yeah.
Tender Love and Services?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right. She will be giving you a call.
Okay, the residence is already there, the house, correct? Or is it just empty land?
It's empty land.
Okay,
Right. It's empty land, it's wooded land, and it would have to be cleared out and for her to build.
well, she'll have to come in front of the plan commission.
I can't hear you.
Pardon?
I didn't hear you. You will.
I said, she has to come in front of the plan.
Right, she gotta come
Yeah,
before
they'll
the
have to start
plan.
all over again.
She's
Yeah.
going to give you a courtesy call, Mark,
Okay.
just as a courtesy to you because it's your ward.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
So I have a question for council. Do we get a second on your motion?
Yeah, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, thank you. So, Counselor, do we need to do anything else besides just have this motion on the books, or do we need to do something, follow-up work after
I
Pat?
will do a follow-up resolution giving Pat and I the actual authority to go ahead and seek the
Okay.
appraisals. We'll do that retroactive to this date, though,
Okay, great.
so.
Yeah. So the motion is to get two appraisals and then sell the property at the average of the two appraisals.
Yes.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries, Mr. Hardaway.
Did you pick out the appraisers, Mr. Hardaway?
No, I don't, that's,
Okay,
all I did, Marge, is all I'm doing tonight.
That
Okay.
will be coordinated through the town manager. Mr. Hardaway, if you could give me the actual address of the parcel that we're selling,
Yeah, we have that.
then I can include that in the rest.
3400 West 76th Lane.
3400 West.
76th Lane,
76.
3400, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
3400.
Great, thank you.
That's one I probably.
Any other new business before us tonight?
Oh, down his word.
Hearing none. Open to the public. Is there any public comment this evening? Please approach the podium and the microphone and state your name and address for the record. And please limit your comments to 2 minutes.
I look better on the camera. My name is Doug Glassford. I live at 2801 West 55th Avenue in Lakewood Estates. I came here I was told to come here by my precinct committeeman, Curtis Pearson, because I've had an issue going on I've been trying to resolve for about 3 years. In the last 3 years, I've had 11 trees fall down on my property, 4 of them hitting my house.
Wow.
3 of them putting holes in my roof, and it's not on my property where the trees fell. It's on a neighboring lot. And I have been trying through the Lake County Assessor's Office online, because with the COVID, it's hard to get in there, the tax assessors. And I've had no success in finding who owns it. I was told it's somebody by the name of Pro, who's a builder that's been building up the street on 55th Avenue, supposedly owns that property. I've spent over $3,000, and besides, actually it's closer to 4, because like today at 3:15, another tree came down in my yard, number 11. And on the 18th, one came down, and on the 16th, one came down.
Wow.
And the one on the 16th hit my house. And so, all I'm saying is that it costs me about $100 every time to get it taken care of, because I'm 68 years old and semi-retired, or semi-disabled, with back injuries from working at Inland Steel. And so all I'm saying is, I don't know what to do. He said to come here maybe I could get some assistance, like from Sheila. You mentioned your name, Sheila Shine.
Yes,
And,
can you, will you please repeat your address again?
Sure, it's 2801 West 55th Avenue in Lakewood Estates. Like I said, we love that place there, but I had no idea that the trees that we love so much would decide to attack my home. And all I'm saying is, being retired and whatever, my biggest concern is some larger trees look like they'll be coming down, and these will be hitting my house. And I'd like to get this taken care of before that happens, and I don't know what to do.
So after the meeting, can I have your telephone number?
Yes,
And, is this vacant land?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
right
take
now,
your,
right now, the town of Merrillville is mowing the edge of it, about a 4-foot strip.
okay. I'll take your address and we'll look into it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We'll do all we can to help you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there any other public comment tonight?
Good evening. Before I start, I would ask the president if there's any comments to wait until my 2 minutes is up, because the last time I was interrupted about 3 times, and then I was told my 2 minutes was up. My name is Robert L. Buggs Sr., and I live in Northwest Indiana. The word censure generally means when a public elected official does something that is reprehensible, racially or morally, unethically wrong, that department will censure them publicly, tell them that that's wrong. Well, we have a Mr. Minchuk who's on the town council did something as a joke, as a prank. Many of you all have seen him, maybe you haven't. 4 people, Mr. Bella, Mr. Pettit, Mr. Hardaway, and Mr. Uzelak, didn't think that what they was making a mockery of met those standards to be censured. The black guy in the Klan uniform, his name is Joseph Hardiman, Deputy Lake County Police Officer. The other one in the blackface, Mr. Minchuk, who is the Lake County Police Officer also, and also the Vice President of the FOP. Now this, I'm black, obviously. It's very offensive to me. But to those 4 councilmen, town councilmen here, they didn't think that this prank rose to the standard for Mr. Minchuk to be censured. So they abstained. Normally, you only abstain if it's a conflict of interest. So I will come here again and again and again and let you all know. This is what happened to my ancestors. It's not funny, it's not a joke, and the town council think, what's no big deal? I will keep coming here. Now, Mr. Minchuk, he apologized and resigned from being the president of this town council, but he didn't do it at the FOP. We wanted to meet with the FOP, and Mr. Tomko, who's the president of the FOP, said that the majority of the FOP membership did not want those outsiders in NAACP in their meetings. And the majority of the FOP is white. Mr. Minchuk did not apologize or resign from being the vice president of the FOP, nor did he apologize to them. This, ladies and gentlemen, I'll keep coming back again and again because obviously they can't come and speak for themselves.
Okay, your time is up.
This is offensive.
Thank you.
Is that 2 minutes?
Yes, it's well over 2 minutes. I gave you extra time, sir.
Time I took before when I was up here?
Well, we gave you back some time.
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
You betcha. Is there any other public comment tonight? Seeing none, we have announcements. Personnel Policy Committee Executive Session, May 26th at 3:45. BZA Committee Meeting, May 26th at 6:30. Plan Commission Workshop, June 1st at 6:30. And Town Council Meeting on June 8th at 6:30.
That executive session is at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center, President.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. White,
May I motion to adjourn?
you can. That would be great.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second. What was that, May 26th?
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Rick, what was May 26th?